Today is Tuesday, February 9th, and today, students, we're going to be working on comparing fractions, and we will be working on lesson number 8. And on the next slide, I have the multiplication table here for you. It's just a resource for you to be able to utilize. Go back as often as you need. And the next two slides are places for you to put your work. That means that if you're working in your binder, or you're solving problems in your notebook, this is a place where after you take a picture of your work, you insert it into these slides. Our learning targets for today: I will expand my thinking of fractions by comparing fractions using a variety of strategies, and I will create visual models and written explanations to explain my thinking. Our central questions for this unit remain the same, and we continue to build upon them. Why might it be important to understand equivalence, and why is unit size important in mathematics? Now, on this next slide, I have a link to a short video, comparing fractions help video. So this is a little short video, about 3 minutes long, that I want you to watch on your own. So you can pause my video and go ahead and click right here. It's a YouTube video, 3 minutes, 22 seconds long. This gives you some information about how to compare fractions. On the next slide, now this is the same as page 173 in your math binder. So you can follow along in your binder, or you can follow along on the slides here. So we're going to look at a recipe and compare fractions for the different ingredients. My favorite trail mix. And let's look at the ingredients for my favorite trail mix. 1/8 cup of raisins, 3/4 cup of cereal, 3/6 cup of peanuts, 1/2 cup chocolate chips, 2/8 cups of almonds. Mix all ingredients well, store in container. And some of the tasks that we're going to be working on: compare the amount of raisins needed and the amount of chocolate chips needed. Which ingredient does the recipe use less of? Which ingredient does this recipe use more of, raisins or almonds? Prove it with a visual model. Does the recipe call for more cereal or more almonds? So go ahead and pause the video now, and I want you, using visual models in your notebook, to go ahead and try to answer these questions. Okay, so you've had an opportunity to take a look at it. And so let's kind of go over it. Compare the amount of raisins needed and the amount of chocolate chips needed. Which ingredient does the recipe use less of? So when we look at raisins, we have 1/8 of a cup. And when we look at chocolate chips, we have 1/2 of a cup. Which ingredient does the recipe use less of? So one thing I want you to be thinking about is when two fractions have the same numerator, which of course is the top part of the fraction, when they have the same numerator, we can kind of reason about the size of each piece. Now, I know that 1/8 is smaller because it's divided up into 8 different parts, whereas 1/2 is going to be bigger because it's divided up into two equal parts. And using tape diagram for this, we're going to divide it up into 8, the first one into 8 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 1/8. And let's go ahead and do the 1/2. So I'll erase this for a second here, and I'll move it over. So chocolate chip is 1/2. And remember, when we're comparing these diagrams, We want to try to get them as close to the same size as possible. And it's not always going to be perfect, but we're going to do the best we can when we're drawing. Okay, so now I need 1/2 on this one. And we'll put it in the halfway spot, and this is 1/2. So now we're comparing the 1/2 of the chocolate chips for the 1/8 to the 1/8 with the raisins. And we see that raisins, there are less raisins than there are chips. So the ingredient used less of the raisins than of the chocolate chip. But before we even drew the model, the diagrams, we could reason by looking at the number of equal parts, 8 versus 2, and look at the numerator and kind of compare that. Again, so our next question, which ingredient does this recipe use more of, raisins or almonds? We're going to prove it with a visual model. So we've already done the raisins. We see that that's 1/8. And now we're going to look at the almonds, which is going to be 2/8. So almonds is 2/8. And we're going to do a visual model for 2/8. All right, and you're going to have 2 shaded in there. Now, when you look at the model, you'll see clearly that there are more almonds than there are raisins. Now, those two have the same denominator. So what I could have done was use the same model that I used for the raisins, since raisins and almonds have the same denominator. I mean, they have the same number of equal parts. And I could have just shaded one more in for the almonds, and I'll see that there are more almonds than there are raisins. So next up, we're going to compare the cereal and the almonds. Compare the cereal and the almonds. So cereal 3/4 cup, and almonds again 2/8. So cereal 3/4, almonds 2/8. So for the cereal, which is 3/4, now I'm going to go ahead and use the same model that I use for the chocolate chips, but I'm going to turn this 1/2 into, I'm going to turn it into fourths. And I'm going to do that by drawing the lines, 2 lines in the middle. Now it becomes fourths. And to make it 3/4, all I need to do is shade in one more of them. So now I've compared 3/4 and the 2/8, and you'll see that 3/4 is bigger than the 2/8. So 3/4 is bigger than 2/8. So on our next slide here, guys, it's called Rolling the Dice. Now this is the same as page 175. So this page you're going to be able to find on page 175 in your math binder. Now, what we're going to do is in class, we're going to be working generally in groups. Maybe even your teacher may even have you with a partner. Now, working individually, if you're watching this from home, you could not make it to the live session. You can still compare fractions on your own, or you can get a family member to help you, to play along with you. So what's going to happen is you will be playing a game with a partner. You will roll a pair of dice to create 2 fractions. To roll the dice below, press play for 3 seconds and then press pause. We're going to do that in a second. So you can record the greater number. So the bigger number is going to be the denominator, and the smaller number is going to be the numerator. So we're going to roll again to create another fraction, and we're going to record it on our sheet. So we're going to record the first fraction here, then we record the second fraction here, and then we're going to use strategies to compare the fractions and complete the symbol in the middle. So we're comparing the dice that we roll. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to practice. All right, so you see here I stopped it, and now we've got 6 as the bigger number, which that's going to be the denominator, and we've got 4 as the smaller number, that's going to be the numerator. So 4 6 is going to be our first number. Okay, so 4 6. So that will mean we're going to be writing 4 6 in the first fraction instead of write 4 fifths. I've gone ahead and recorded 4 6 right here as my first fraction. So now, if you're at home, you're maybe with a family member, you can go ahead and click play again. So basically, you're going to be rolling the dice again for your other person. But if you're by yourself, then you can still do it. You'll just be comparing the fractions alone. All right, so what do we have here? So we've got, looks like 3 as the bigger number, which is going to be the denominator, and 1 is going to be our numerator. So 1/3 is what we have here. Okay, so the first fraction is 4 6. Roll the dice for 4 6, and then the second fraction, 1/3, we roll the dice there. So now we're going to be able to compare them. So let's compare these two. We're going to see, and then we're going to place the less than symbol right here, or the greater than symbol, or the equal to symbol we'll have to place right here after we compare them. Okay, so I've gone on and done my proof drawings over here. Now you can use whatever method that you want to be able to prove it. You can use a number line, you use an area model drawing, the tape diagram, any of those that we practice to compare. So here I've got 4 6, which was the first fraction. So I've got 6 equal parts. I've got 4 shaded in, and down here is 1/3, the 1/3 fraction. So I've got 1 shaded in. So clearly, I can see that 4 6 is going to be bigger than 1/3. So that's why I've got the greater than sign right here. So 4 6 is greater than 1/3. So this is what you're going to be practicing on. So how about try this a few more times, and each time that you try, you will be filling in the different columns below what I've already done here. And that page is on 175. So this sheet you can find on page 175 in your binder. And as you play the game, guys, some questions that I want you to consider as you actually roll the dice and as you write down your fractions and as you compare them. Questions to consider: what is the same with the fractions, the two that you compared? How do you know which fraction was greater? And how do you know which fraction is less? So be able to discuss those. On our next slide here, quick check, how do we solve these? On the left side, I've got fractions with different denominators. So if you see, the denominators for each that are being compared are different. So 2/10, and this little box right here is for us to be able to put a greater than or less than sign, and then we're comparing it to 2/3. So here we got 3/8, we're being able to compare that to 3/4. 1/2 compared to 2 6. All of these have different denominators. The ones that we're comparing with each other are different. And on the right side, we got fractions with different numerators. So now, for the ones that are being compared, the denominators are the same. So we got 12 as a denominator here. These two are being compared, but the numerators are different. And the next one, you got numerator different, but we do have a different denominator here also. And right here we've got a different numerator, but we've also got a different denominator on this one. So how do we solve these? So I want you to think for a few minutes about how would you approach this and how would you solve them. So pause the video and just think about those. All right, so on my next slide here, I've got, for our quick check on the previous slide, this is my answer key. So fractions with different denominators. 2/10 was being compared to 2/3, and you'll see here that 2/10 is less than 2/3, and 2/10 is going to be in the red, and 2/3 is in the green. So for 2/10, of course, like we practiced, you have to partition it into 10 equal parts because 10 is the denominator. So you partition it into 10 equal parts. You shade in 2 of them. That represents 2/10. And for the second one, 2/3, of course, for your drawing, you're going to compare them, you want to make them the exact same size. So we got the same size rectangle here, and we divided this one into 3 equal parts, 1, 2, and 3, shaded in 2 of them. So you compare them by looking at the shaded in portions. So the one that has the most shaded in area is the bigger fraction. So 2/3 is bigger, but with the way that this is set up, that means that 2/10 is less than 2/3. Now, let's go down to this one. 1/2 is greater than 2/6. 1/2 is greater than 2/6. So let's take a look at 1/2. So this one's divided into 2 equal parts. One of them being shaded in. This represents 1/2, and at the bottom in yellow, 6 equal parts. 2 of them are shaded in, so that represents 2/6. And let's go up here at the top. 3/12 is less than 4/12. So these have the same denominator. This is really pretty easy to compare these because you have the same number of equal parts, and you can look at the fraction itself and tell that 4 is going to be bigger than 3. So 4/12 is always going to be bigger than 3/12. Down here, 3/6, 4/8. So now you need to compare these. For 3/6 is in the yellow. We got 6 equal parts. 3 of them are shaded in. And for 4/8, we got 8 equal parts. 4 of them are shaded in. This is equal. They have the same amount shaded in. So this is an equal amount. That means that these fractions are equivalent to each other. Okay, so for this next part, it says group work tips from the experts. If you're working from home, you're not attending our live lesson, guys, what I want you to do is look at these questions, and I want you to go ahead and answer them. You can do it, answer in your notebook. So answer these in your notebook. The first one, how would you compare fractions when you have different numerators but the same denominator? So we've already discussed this one on the previous slide. How would you compare fractions when you have the same numerator but a different denominator? We've discussed this one. How would you compare fractions when you have a different numerator and a different denominator? And we've done examples of this one too. So if you need to go back to the previous slide, go ahead and go back, but I want you to answer these in your notebook. And from the previous slide, guys, I've given you some help right here. These are some things that you could say, some visuals to help you. These are some visuals to help you to answer in words. About comparing number 1, 2, and 3. So next up, for your independent practice, now this is on page 177. This is on page 177, but I also have it on a Jamboard. So you're going to have a choice doing it on the Jamboard, or you can work in your math binder, page 177. So on the Jamboard, it would look like this. You would just go through, and the questions are at the bottom. We got directions right here. So using the list of ingredients above, answer the following questions. The first one, compare the first 2 ingredients. Which is the greater amount? How do you know? Prove your answer with a visual model. So this is just a continuation of our recipe from earlier. And you can answer that on the Jamboard below. And there's another one up here. Question 2, does this recipe require more oatmeal or more sugar? Show your thinking. You can show that inside of the Jamboard here. There's a third one. Question 3, if there was only a 1/4 measuring cup, how many fourths of each ingredient would you need? Show your work. And fourth, now this one, it says upload an image of your own recipe. Choose 2 fractions from the recipe and show your work to compare them. So basically you would just choose 2 of these. You can choose 2 that we haven't compared already and compare them. Well, actually from this one, guys, you actually would be creating your own recipe. So you would create your own recipe. So you would change these fractions in here. You could change the ingredients. You can change the ingredients. You can change these fractions. You can add other ingredients to it if you want to. If there's a favorite thing that you like to make, maybe with your parents, then you can use a recipe that you're already familiar with, but you're going to use fractions. And if you don't know what the fractions are that's used for that recipe, just make up some fractions. And as you work, guys, if you need help with comparing fractions, then all you need to do is click on this little red help button, and it's actually going to take you to the very next slide. And this is the same video that I had you watch earlier in this lesson. So you click there, and then you click on the little short YouTube video, and then you get instructions again or reminders on how to compare fractions. And you can watch this as many times as you like. And lastly, just a reminder of your independent work, page 177, or work on the Jamboard. And also, I want you to work on Khan Academy. There have been some Khan Academy assignments that your teacher have assigned to you about comparing fractions. So go ahead and work on those. And when you finish all the work, go ahead and turn in your lesson for the day.